Thank you for joining for the interview today. So today's interview from Edible Media is Andrew Hass, the filmmaker of The Edible City. So thank you so much for joining.
Thank you for asking me to join you. It's nice to be with you.
So the first thing is to share with you is that the Edible City, when we shared it for free, it got over 54,000 views in YouTube, which was really surprising. And then we were really happy to see the interest of the people in Japan. And so we thought that it would be interesting to kind of hear your side of the stories and the film, how the film, like what's the motivation of you to, make the films, and then also kind of like what kind of changes you saw after people in the US received the film, and some of the things that you were thinking about doing next, kind of things like that. So kind of like see where you are now after I don't know how many years since you meet me, right? So
I think it was 2008 that I started it, so 12 years since I started it. Yeah.
Right. And so maybe just to see, just to hear where you are first. Yeah. So where are you right now?
Right now I'm in Marin in California.
Okay.
But actually I've recently moved from Berkeley, where I was living when I made the film, and for the last 15 years, just up north, about an hour from the Bay Area, to a little town in the forest called Occidental. So yeah, it's a big change for me, and it's really nice to be in around more trees.
Yeah. Was there a reason why you left the city?
I grew up in Berkeley, and then I went to school in New York, and then I came back, and I lived in Berkeley for a long time now. And I had the chance to stay up in this place where I'm living now for a few months and be in a different setting that was a more forested area, less houses and less city. And I realized that's something that I've really been wanting to do for a long time. So it's nice because it's a very similar ecosystem to what I am familiar with. It's Northern California, redwoods and oak trees and bay trees and things that I know from Berkeley, but there's just more of them. There's less concrete. And it's a really nice culture there too. A lot of people that are really aligned with the kind of things that we're interested, regenerative agriculture and that kind of thing. So
yeah, I see. So
and in fact, also Willow, who's in the film, also lives nearby too. So I'm not the only one who decided to make that move.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, that actually made me want to ask this question before I asked the question that I was going to ask, because so the Edible City was the film that really to show what you could do in the city, right? And the message was that when the city changes, then many could change. But you as a person decided to, after all, leave the city.
Yeah. Well, I think there's so much potential in the city for amazing transformation, and that's what was part of the inspiration for making the film, is that having lived in New York City for about 5 years and really knowing what it's like to be in a big city, and then coming back to Berkeley and really being able to appreciate all of the trees and gardens and forest and things that are not as much city, and seeing how people there were trying to transform the city more into a natural environment. There was something very appealing about that.
Yeah.
And I don't even know if I knew why at the time. There was a part of me then that wanted to live on a farm. And instead, I wanted to make a film. And this was sort of the best of both worlds, considering that I was in the city. Right. And I think it's a really interesting puzzle because it's easy to think about food when you're living in a place where, like I'm living with now, where there's farms everywhere. You just go to the farm if you want food, right. Or the farm stand or whatever. But in the city where I was, and where my family still is, and where a lot of folks that are seeing the film are, it's a different question about how to get food. And I think when I started to ask that question for myself, it was a zooming out moment and realizing, wow, this system is really complicated, complex. Yeah. And so I think there's no way to solve the food issue without looking at cities. Right. So yeah, I think it's whether you're living there or not, it's still an important question.
Yeah, that's true. So then, I remember the last time I interviewed you, when you wanted to, at first you wanted to make the film about the climate change, and it didn't work really well. And then it seems like, going to the Slow Food Nation on 2008, seeing the people who worked on the food, you felt just naturally, it was more like an organic process to make the film than, you had this scenario ahead of time. But then, like you are saying now, the system in the city is really major. So then, so what was the base motivation for making that film, or what kind of what needs you wanted to fill of yourself by making them a movie?
Yeah, that's a good question. There are a few different things, but I think maybe the most important is the one that I was sort of just talking about, where there was a part of me that really just wanted to be around plants and dirt and people that are working with their body, and I wanted to work my own body in that way. And I also am a filmmaker. Right. And I've been making films for my entire life, and I really wanted to make a film. And so I think it was those two needs that really combined. And then there's a need that, there's looking at the climate change issue and seeing how big that was, there was also a need to really think deeply about where we're going as a collective and what the future looks like. And I think that part is even more relevant now. Maybe they're all as relevant now, but it's very relevant now. So I guess those three things, they're sort of like a somatic kind of body level thing where I just needed to be around that kind of energy of plants and gardens. And then there was the part about telling a story. And then there's the part about me understanding for myself what story I'm in, where it's headed in the big grand scheme,
Yeah. Great. So, did you actually, what impact did you receive on yourself by creating that film? Because, you obviously met many of the people who are in the film for the first time by the process of making the film, right? So what change do you see in yourself before and after making that film?
It changed me a lot to make that film. It was my first documentary that I made, and so I was learning the whole time just how to make that kind of film.
Yeah.
There was a lot of development on that level, and working with a team, and just making a film.
Yeah.
But I think also, more importantly, the people that I was meeting were really inspiring people, like deeply committed to what they were doing, and for reasons that I really resonated with. And I think it awakened my own sense of purpose and commitment, and just dedication to being an advocate for life, and for the natural world, and for humans, and for justice, and sanity, ecological sanity about what we're doing on the planet, and just a lot of the things that I think I've been feeling, but had been kind of dormant maybe, or just not articulated. They helped me articulate. And that's one of the great things about making a film like that, is that, all those folks who are in the film are so amazing. They said so many amazing things.
Right.
And then I get to pick the things that really resonate with me, and that change me. And so really that, in a way, the film is sort of a reminder to myself about what's important. And then that's what I want to share with everybody else, because it's like, wow, this is the stuff that really I discovered. So that's, I think, watching the film also, you sort of see my own journey into it.